The Indiana Jones reboot has been talked about for the last almost 10 years, probably even longer than that. Especially with Chris Pratt. And the Indiana Jones reboot has even been talked about recently due to the bad rumors because of the internet. But official Indiana Jones reboot hasn't happened. Especially with how we will probably never see an Indiana Jones reboot with Chris Pratt. And then, even if we do see a reboot, it's probably gonna be, gonna be with somebody new. Starring Chris Pratt. Which you can say it's a wash. Shame or whatever. But in the mid-2010s, they did actually plan for a reboot. And not with the actor you think they were gonna go with. Around the time when Lucasfilm was bought by Disney very much wanted to capitalize, very much wanted to make a new Star Wars sequel trilogy. But what were they going to do with Indy? After all, this was only a few years after Crystal Skull. So, they would have gotten Robert Pattinson. Yes, Robert Pattinson as Indiana Jones. Now, nothing against Robert Pattinson. I liked him in the Batman, but I don't see him as Indy. I just don't. Especially if you compare, and especially when this was only a few years after the Twilight trilogy ended. It was originally supposed to start production in 2014. But what if they did actually go with it? What if they actually rebooted the Indiana Jones franchise in the mid-2010s? Now, this is all speculation. This is mostly what, especially reading out all it has is Robert Pattinson. And I will be changing a few things. 1. Robert Pattinson will not be the Indy of this trilogy. It will be Chris Pratt. 2. All of them will come out either 1 year the first film will come out 1 year before the start of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And the reason why I went with Chris Pratt is just because I don't really see a world where they decided to go with Pattinson. So yeah. And so this film would come out in 2014. And this would be one of the shortest times in between the sequel. And this would come out 1 year before the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And because of that, it will be seen as this kind of equivalent of the Star Wars sequels. Especially when we're reaching 10 years when they first started. Yes, it's been 10 years since 2015. I can't believe that. Man. But it will probably be better because of that. They're both similar situations of popular Lucasfilm franchises, which is that Disney wanted to make more money with. But I feel like Indy will probably do a lot more better when it comes to Star Wars. Because 1, it's going to be a reboot. 2, Steven Spielberg is a general better director. And one of the main reasons why he even quit from Indy 5 was just because he wanted to work on but I feel like this would be a case scenario where Steven Spielberg would still be at least a few years, at least about a decade younger, still somewhat of an old man, but it would come out in 2014 with Chris Pratt as main Indiana Jones. And because of this film would be seen as a kind of, and because of that, Indy would be seen as the last. Indy 4 would be seen as the last time Harrison Ford would be playing Indiana Jones. But because of this, Indiana Jones reboot will be a few things. And it will be a trilogy that will kind of be the equivalent of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And the main artifact / MacGuffin will be the Garden of Eden. Winning out, this is very much what I think would have happened. I decided to go with a somewhat biblical rated artifact, somewhat artifact, with the Garden of Eden. Especially winning out would be seen just as much, especially winning out would somewhat be this mysterious place that Indy would go and find. The start of humanity, and it would be a magical place that will still, and if you read the Bible, you know who guarding it or an angel. And because of that, Indy will try and go and find it to discover this birthplace of humanity and the creation spot. And there will be and it will still have this kind of mystery spot, especially in the own set foot in the Garden of Eden, but there will be definitely, it's the Garden of Eden. And it will be set place in the 1930s, but in 1939, before World War II ended, right before World War II started. Only a few months, probably in July of 1939, 2 months before World War II would start. And Indy would try and find the Garden of Eden, or the Nazis do. And the main love interest would be played by Alexa Dolores. Now I chose, just because she's a good actor, or one of the most famous shows, Man in the High Castle. And also, I don't know what she was doing at that time, so yeah. Now this will probably, and this wouldn't be in this, and she's a good actor, and she will be in this love interest towards Indy, and she will be like a combine between Marion and Prince, and somewhat, and Black Widow somewhat. It would make more sense, but winning out, this is an actual film, so yeah. Misha Collins would be playing the main bad guy, just because winning out Misha Collins could probably be playing. Oh, then it doesn't really need to change that much. Oh, then winning out cast was winning out Super, even though he might not be in that film for that long compared to the other characters, just because Supernatural is still ongoing. But it could still happen. But yeah, and that would mean he would do a German accent before. He would be doing a German accent before that one weird episode of Supernatural comes out. So yeah, but could still happen. And he would be trying to find the Garden of Eden to prove that the Nazis will the race descendant from, prove that the German race are the first descendants of humanity from the Garden of Eden. And a normal Indiana Jones adventures would pursue. Oh, then Indy will have kind of this kind of dilemma throughout it. Would he is about to start? Would he join? Would he betray it? Oh, just to stop the Nazis? Or would he? Because the Nazis are he's essentially following the Nazis in this version. Or find the welfare's wife and settle her on down. And so it's your normal Indiana Jones adventure. And then the Nazis find the Garden of Eden and explains how there soon will be Garden of Eden next to the world. And Indy has to, stop them as he usually does. Now, this would be a case scenario of Chris Pratt being now Indian Hall. His love interest would be a case scenario fighting against the Nazis until the Nazis find the Garden of Eden. When they do find the Garden of Eden, they have Emma, Indy's love interest, captured, and Indy has to give them the map to the Garden of Eden. And because of this, an angel shows up. An angel that's, when they find the Garden of Eden, it's an angel that's guarding it. And then because of that, it's an angel that kills all the Nazis. It's the Archangel Saint Michael. Kills all the Nazis, including the main villain. And then the move, and will end with General Kraus getting himself killed against the angel. And it will be seen as a glorious scene of it all. And the angel will be probably a CGI creation for technically the second time in an Indiana Jones franchise. Indy's love-inch Emma and Indy would ride off into the sunset after this eventual. And the movie would end with both giving reports back to Washington, D.C., and you see right before and you would see also Nazis giving reports of the founding of the Garden of Eden failing right before the invasion of Poland. Indiana Jones and the Garden of Eden would come out in 2014, and it would be seen as a somewhat successful movie. Now, this is in 2014, before the sequel trilogy, and right after, and only 2 years after Avengers, and probably sometime in summer of 20. Probably sometime in the summer. This film would be seen as probably a lot better than the sequel trilogy, just because Steven Spielberg's a better director than most of the sequel trilogy directors. Even though he's not going to be directing most of the trilogy, another guy will be directing the last 2 films. But that's for next time. And John Williams would still be putting in no sequel, and probably a new fly score for Indiana Jones. And the critics would see this as a new start, but yet kind of. And would probably also introduce a lot more. Than Indiana. It would probably introduce a lot more younger children. A lot more kids to Indiana Jones, and would probably become a childhood classic alongside other people. Especially reading out, this film would come out as the same year as the second Hobbit movie and Guardians of the Galaxy and the Lego movie. If you remember movies that were released in 2014, it would belong. Indy 5 wouldn't be seen as a movie in the 2020s, be seen as a movie that came out in the 2010s that was a classic, of a reboot of a classic, alongside Interstellar, the Lego movie, the second Captain America movie, the second Thor movie, and whatever else movies came out in 2014. This movie would be seen as bringing new life to Indiana Jones. Especially rooting out, this movie would probably bring a lot more people's hope to the sequel trilogy. Rooting out would be a case scenario 1 year before episode 7. And the reboot, and this would also kickstart Chris Pratt's career, which also makes it where Chris Pratt will probably locked in, and will probably not really be seen as a case scenario being debated who can play Owen, but yeah. And by the time of the sequel trilogy, it's seen as not as great as its sister franchise Indiana Jones did, especially reading out episode 7 is. And yeah, but else, and with Chris Pratt Owen would be seen as kind of Indiana Jones, just because there would probably be a debate: is Indiana Jones connected to the Jurassic Park franchise because of Owen, and is Owen Indiana Jones' long lost grandson or something? Was the second Indiana Jones film in this franchise, Indiana Jones and the Gates of Doom, will be focusing on an entire made-up artifact, and will be an entire new story set place entirely in the 1940s, and that will come out around in 2016. Now, this is an entirely what if. If any reboot did happen, even if it was good, maybe it probably didn't. But that's all for now, archaeologists.